All righty. I would like to call the Public Works and Safety Committee meeting to order on Monday, January 20th at 5 p.m. Please stand with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Alderman Kabaki.
Here.
Alderman Schwer.
Here.
Alderman Madden.
Here.
Director Krager.
Here.
Chief Westfall.
Statement of public
Here.
notice. Chief.
It was publicly noticed on January 17th.
Status of projects, Scott.
Sure. Let's go with, first one, we're going to start with the Hillendale Drive reconstruction project. So this project has been completed. This will be the last time we'll be talking about this project, and it will be removed from the list, and the website will be updated accordingly. As you could tell, if you haven't driven it, it is looking great. It drives really well. So the first thing, spring and summer of 2025, the city will address any issues with grass seed, sod that did not make it through the winter. Those are usually the biggest concerns that we have. Currently, the one other issue, we got a request with some speeding. So as this happened with the other Hillendale Road, the first phase, when you look at these roads, the trees are cut down, the clear zones look great, the road's really smooth. You tend to go a little faster. You can see everything. And so what has happened, we did a speed study out there, and the report just came back today, and the plan is to put a flashing speed sign out there, and hopefully that little thing will remind people to drive the speed limit, even though that it is a brand new road. So. Yep, there was a little lowering of 5 miles an hour. More of an urban area that we are looking into, and the safety and design standards that we have in place.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions on Hillendale Road? Because this is the last time we'll be discussing it at the meeting. All right. Next one, road program 2024-2025. The 2024 road program has been completed. So we will update the website accordingly. The 2025 road program, so we are hoping to bid that in February or March of 2025. Once the contractor has been awarded the project, we will sit down and go over the schedule with them. And then once we determine the schedule, then we usually send out the letters right to the residents to warn them of when they started this work. Usually those letters go out in the spring of 2025, and then we will also update our website around that time too. This can vary from construction. Last year we had an early construction time. I think we had most of the work done before it's July 4th, and then sometimes it can be later, closer to August. So we will see what the schedule of the new of the contractor when we award them the bid. So. Any questions on the road program? And we'll keep this one on and give you updates as we have our monthly meetings. The last one, the PPI program for 2024-2025. So in 2024, 35 houses have been completed. And the plan is in the spring and summer of 2025, we have 28 homes planned to be have their lateral replaced. R&M, our consultant, have or will be shortly notifying these 28 owners that they are scheduled in 2025. We haven't forgot about them. They just weren't part of the 2024 year. Then once we get closer to the construction date, we will send out a letter to all the homeowners, the 28, so to prepare them for when we are going to do it. And then we do individual site visits with our consultant, R&M, and then we will update our website accordingly. So.
And that's being done through MSD.
Correct. What we just do is we take it on, we bill it, and then as soon as I get the bill, we pay for it. I send the reimbursements through eBuilder, through MSD, and then we get them all back. Perfect. So.
Great. Anything else, Scott?
Nope.
Okay, there is no unfinished business. New business, ATV, UTV use on city streets.
All right, so what I'm going to do is just give you a brief kind of like highlight of the memo, and then I'm going to ask Alderperson Schwer to kind of give a little update since this was kind of his thing. So Alderperson Schwer has submitted a request to the Common Council, which we'll be going to. First, we're starting at the Public Works and Safety Committee to consider an ordinance allowing all terrain vehicles, ATVs, and utility terrain vehicles, UTVs, to operate on public streets within the city of Muskego. The proposed ordinance, Chapter 301, outlines the regulations and requirements to ensure safety and control use of these vehicles. A copy of the ordinance was attached, just to let everyone know. And you can also see it on your iPad. Some of the key provisions of the ordinance include definitions, specific criteria for ATVs and UTVs, including weight, dimensions, equipment standards, lights, seatbelts, roll bars, routes, authorized ATV, UTV use on all city streets, excluding alleys and unpaved shoulders, operator requirements, minimum age of 16 with a valid Wisconsin driver's license, safety certification for operators born on or after January 1st, 1988, operational rules, observance of speed limits, use of headlights and taillights at all times, prohibition on operating under the influence of alcohol or drugs, restricted operation hours 10:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. except during snow emergency for plowing purposes, safety measures, mandatory insurance and proof of registration, eye protection and helmets required for operators, passengers under 18, yielding to non-motorized traffic, enforcement penalties aligned with state traffic laws and Muskego Code of Ordinances. So, just to let everyone know, tonight, you guys decide. You guys, if you want to change anything, you want to send it, but you need some type of direction, either to pass it on the Common Council, change it, or whatever. So now I'm going to let Alderperson Schwer to kind of give you a little bit update of just how this was brought all together.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that overview. So basically it came from a constituent, and then talking with Mayor Rick and going into it's definitely not a new topic to the city. When the golf cart ordinances was written, from my understanding, this was looked at, but at that time it was just decided to go forward with golf carts only. And then that was almost a good case study, quote unquote, to see how that went through. So then Attorney Warshaw and I sat down. We looked at neighboring communities that have legalized UTVs on the roadways. We went through all their ordinances, kind of didn't reinvent the wheel, but took parts of them to really create a well-defined ordinance for the city. I think it's also important to note that it's only legalizing them on city streets. So your main streets like Moreland, Janesville, Racine, it's not legalizing because those are county or state roads. That's kind of the gist of it. Chief Westfall, would you like to say anything in regards from the police department's stance on it? And I know I went to your office as well to take a look at.
Like exactly what we talked about with the golf cart ordinance, we haven't had any issues from my understanding looking back at any of those. If you pay attention to, like a moped, for example, UTVs and ATVs actually probably have more safety equipment. And a thing that just kind of got mentioned here, if they're operating on city roadways, all the uniform traffic code applies anyway. So we have all the same enforcement action. In fact, we have more when it comes to those specific vehicles because they need to be registered through the DNR as well. But those are not going to be on the trails. I think that just needs to be advertised if it ends up going out of our trails and trails usage, both the We Energies and the trails along the side of the road. This would be something that's on the roadway. At this point, I don't see any major pushback from the constituents. As you can see, like for plowing purposes, I'm glad you have that exception in there. I see that all the time anyway. I will tell you, we just generally don't enforce it because we try to use a common sense approach. But I've had my neighbor bring his ATV over to help me with my driveway, and it worked out fine. So that's the backstory. I don't anticipate this being an issue. And again, if it is, we can adjust as we go.
Well, currently under our low-speed vehicles, we keep them at roadways 25 miles an hour or less. This would open it up to people going down Crowbar, for example. It's a 45-mile-an-hour road. Kelsey, a 45-mile-an-hour road. I'm a little concerned about that.
That is something that we discussed earlier. I believe it's 30, if I'm not mistaken, for the golf carts, not 25. And the ATVs and UTVs actually go faster than your golf carts generally, so that's kind of the reason for that.
One of the reasons that
Go forward.
One of the reasons that we limited golf carts to the slower speeds was to not impede traffic on those higher rate of travel roads and then have people passing them and cause more of a hazard. In fact, all modern ATVs and UTVs, there's not a speed limit in the community on any of our city roads that they can't keep up with. And the UTVs have a full roll cage and everything else for safety purposes and seatbelts. So they're actually much safer than a golf cart.
ATVs don't have the safety equipment though, as built. I mean, they don't have seat belts. At least the ones I've been on don't have seat belts. They don't have mirrors.
They have mirrors. They have side mirrors.
ATVs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're required to.
Okay.
So they don't have a roof. They don't have seat belts, but neither do mopeds. So,
Oh, true.
or motorcycles.
True. Other comments? Alderperson Madden.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna have, I do know I'm gonna have some kickback on this from our friends at Champions Village, because it seems like whenever something comes up that the teenagers there can get in trouble for, they do it. And I just can see them saying, oh boy, we can run ATVs around the subdivision now, and they get nuts. And I understand that's a parental issue. I'm just saying I know it's going to happen. And I know that's not a reason to not do it. I just know it's going to happen there.
Any idea why Town of Norway restricts ATV travel on Danoon Road? They've got signs all over the place.
They're just following, again, it's more of a municipal, their town and like state statute. You know, the county highway, I don't anticipate Waukesha County would allow it, just from my conversations in that direction. So it's just an individual municipality issue.
Don't you think most of those issues are based on parents complaining or people complaining that kids are doing bad things? I mean, we had two kids on a UTV not that long ago by my house that a girl got killed. I mean, you can get ridiculous with them if you think you got
And
freedom.
this won't change that, because what happened, obviously, they weren't legal then. You have to have a valid driver's license to be on a road. There are communities around, Big Bend allows them, so neighboring community that butts us. I believe Norway does accept on Danoon. I'm not positive on that one though, but.
Yeah, they restrict them there. I don't know why.
And Danoon might be because it's a multi-jurisdictional road and we don't allow it, so I have no idea.
Okay.
But I do know Big Bend recently approved it. The city of Fort Atkinson did it. It started this past April. The administration was very much against it. They didn't want it. The aldermen wanted it. They passed it. I just talked to their clerk a few hours ago. They have not had any problems with it. One way or the other, I really don't care which way this goes, but I can tell you, I get asked about this at least once a month. So, and it's not the same person asking over and over.
I see.
So.
And it's kind of important to mention, you did mention that death, and
Yes.
these are not free of risk.
Right.
And I believe that the death that we handled was an off-road incident.
It was.
So we had to have the DNR come out and investigate that anyway, similar to a snowmobile. If a snowmobile was involved in a crash, there's different rules that depends on where it is. And this ordinance is just going to protect those individuals that are operating. And again, the expectation is in accordance with traffic law on the roadway. If they're doing stuff that's illegal, reckless, it would be enforced as a normal traffic stop. If they're off roadway, then that's another issue, but we still have enforcement action. We can take both through, because we have the ability to issue uniform crime citations and then also DNR citations.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, need a motion to recommend one way or the other on this.
Motion to recommend to Common Council?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Chronic nuisance premises.
For this one, I'm going to let Chief Westfall kind of give you the background and discussion on this one.
Scott, if you could scroll up in the memo. I don't know who has the memo, or Wendy, you have it?
Yep.
The memo is just an overview. Basically, what we're looking for, we've been asking Attorney Warchel and Mayor Petfalski for a little while of having a few more tools in our tool belt when it comes to dealing with nuisance properties. And I say that almost tongue in cheek because every one of you, Alderman Decker, we have had a few nuisance properties here in the city of Muskego. And they're very difficult to deal with, both for your law-abiding citizens and you as the elected representative. This is going to give us just an additional tool that we can use to enforce action, not only on perhaps someone that lives there or perhaps even the homeowner if it's a rental property. We do not have a ton of these that I can foresee, and it's not a targeted to a specific residence or a specific person, but we do have some recidivism in certain properties that we are repeat offenders that we go back to consistently, and we'd like to have a few more tools in the tool belt. We mirrored this ordinance off of other communities as well in order to have some other recourse when we're dealing with those properties that are basically a drain on your public safety personnel.
So my concern is the guy that's got a next door neighbor that just absolutely hates his guts. He's got a Trump sign in his yard. He wants this guy to go down. And he calls you every chance he gets. Or he calls us every chance he gets. Or he calls plan department. And I know you guys in the plan department get them all the time. I know a couple of them personally.
You act like you had these before,
Oh,
Alderman?
yes. Oh, yes. What do we do with them?
Well, I can tell you that those are frequent calls to the police department as well. Sometimes they're through you. We have to vet every individual time that we choose or not to choose through discretion citations. And we understand those chronic neighbor issues as well. If they don't rise to the level of issuing a citation, we certainly don't, because we have to, deal with the consequences. And then there's checks and balances when you come to it. Just because we issue a citation doesn't mean that there's a conviction down the road. Then Attorney Warchel has to get involved. Your elected municipal judge has to get involved in order to be able to, take a look at this. And those are all things that are factored and considered before we would look at, issuing some sort of chronic nuisance citation.
But this ordinance seems to direct it towards the property and towards a resident in the property and not the complaining neighbor who's causing issues.
Correct. We have to deal with the complaining neighbor on a separate, that's separate than the nuisance property because sometimes the squeaky wheel ends up being the person that calls the police department. And we encourage people to call the police department. Yes, sometimes people use it a little bit more than they should. That's not the intent and purpose of this specific ordinance. This is for the individuals that we get called there for legitimate complaints over and over and over, and on a variety of different things. Obviously, you can see at the bottom, the authority gives it to the chief of the police or designees are authorized to determine violations and enforce penalties. Well, we can enforce the penalties, but that's still going to go through the checks and balances through the municipal court.
Okay. Other discussion? Like to see a motion? Oh, Alderman Decker. Come to the microphone, please.
Was there any particular thing that instigated this, that it be brought forward? Just curious.
Yes, and I will tell you, this has been something that's been on my agenda for a time, working with Attorney Warchel, because we have several properties in the city of Muskego where we have chronic issues at that we're losing the ability to actively enforce, we're just looking for a little bit more teeth. to be able to deal with our chronic problems and our chronic issues because of the numbers of calls, there. And this is something that we are looking to up our game, so to speak, and help, quite frankly, give us tools to help the law-abiding citizens in those communities.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Good.
Would this help with Randy Wazinski?
If you want to talk specific names, we can go into specific names, but that would be one that it would have helped
Is that right?
eventually. This just gives more.
I can give you some for instances,
Okay.
hypotheticals. So picture an apartment complex where they have some lowlifes that live in them that are constantly causing problems, that all of a sudden we have a bunch of police calls to that apartment. The owner of that building chooses not to evict these people. This is probably, because now we can go after the owner of the building because they're creating the nuisance by renting to them. So it gives them more incentives to maybe not renew their lease or evict them all, one way or the other. Typically, we have properties that don't maintain them to the level they're supposed to, that we find them, but they don't seem to care. All they do is, they're going to have, eventually when they pass away, we're going to own the house, but we can't put those fines onto the tax bill. It's not like cutting grass. So we've got homes out there with $50,000, $60,000 in fines assessed against the property, but they don't seem to care, and they still become the nuisance. So this is just another tool to.
And the mayor's correct. It's not identified towards rental properties or homeowners. It's a little bit of both.
It's on the property itself. So, if it's a case of a property owner that's a problem, it's just another mechanism to fine. But actually last week we decided what we're going to start doing on these is going to circuit court, getting a warrant to take care of to abate the nuisance. Essentially, we give them a 3-week notice that you have to have your property cleaned up by such and such a date. Anything that's left outside is deemed abandoned, and we hire a company to come in there and take everything out with, unfortunately, a police escort, because sometimes these things can. But we're at our wits' ends for a number of properties that they've been a problem the whole time I've been here and before I've been here, and we just have to find more tools to motivate these people.
Many of you know where these properties are and who they are, and the ability for us, and that's why we're asking for tools to deal with those individuals.
Good. Any other discussion? Looking for a recommendation, a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Slow, no wake orders.
When you say approve, you're approving it to move to common council,
Yes.
right? I just want to make sure.
The recommendation to.
Recommendation to move to common council. Perfect.
Correct.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Slow, no wake orders.
So why this kind of came about is I've been here about 8 years, and as we have these storm events, or if you have a spring event where it rains pretty hard, or just during the summertime, a large amount of water that comes in, we're getting more and more of the calls of, let's have a no wake. And so how do we define what a no wake is and where they are? So what we're looking at here is, for this proposed ordinance, is we are to address slow no wake orders with specific provisions regarding water levels and penalties. And what we're doing is on all 3 of our lakes. So the first point, slow no wake restrictions based on water levels. Restrictions are implemented when water levels exceed specific benchmarks at the following lakes. Big Muskego Lake, plus 6 inches above normal level. Benchmark is south 106, west 17398 Muskego Dam Drive. So what this happens is, Ryan, when we look, we have specific areas, when we know it's at a certain level and we can see it, this is the time that we're going to do it. So this is how we're defining them. Little Muskego Lake, plus 8 inches above normal level. Benchmark is south 75, west 18114, Chainsville Road. Lake Dunoon, plus 12 inches above normal level. Benchmark 26905, Dunoon Road. Restrictions would be posted at all public access points when in effect. Emergency orders, the superintendent of public works can advise the chief of police to enact an emergency slow no wake order or stricter ban on all boating activities. These emergency orders remain in effect until lifted by the chief of police in consultation with the superintendent. 3 proactive measures. If rising water levels pose a risk, the superintendent may preemptively recommend an emergency order, as if it's just keep going, flash flooding. 4, delegation of authority. The chief of police and superintendent may designate individuals within their departments to execute duties under this ordinance. So this is kind of what we're looking for. We're giving you specific ways and specific a mark so that we can say it. Because otherwise, if we don't do this, we're going to get the 50 million phone calls, either to an alder person, even to the chief of police, or to DPW. So.
And this has happened in the past.
Yep.
And somebody doesn't, like Danune, they don't like how high the water is. They'll call right. We've had actually people put up signs and say slow no wake, which are on their own. This gives Ryan and I an ability to actually have a way to measure and, have a benchmark, and an ability, if you pass an ordinance, because we've kind of ran into this problem last summer, I don't know how enforceable our previous ordinances were. And so we're readdressing those issues.
How did we decide on those water levels?
I can't lean over that far.
It's like Little Muskego. It's more of a bottleneck there, but going off of the last 25 years of managing the dam and seeing these 100-year floods come every 3 years, we know how much we can give downstream. We know how much comes in, and sometimes, for instance, if we get another half-inch rain in New Berlin, more that comes in Muskego, we know how much is coming in. So that's kind of like the start of it. And then that's how fast it can get off the lake. In the past, when we were doing evacuations, looking at our boat launches and doing damage, the 12-inch mark on Little Muskego is kind of like we're at that point of erosion, damage, everything else. 8 inches is manageable for me. Now, when we talk about this, just for Little Muskego, we're going to have the people more like over on Danune, where they'll be able to visibly see our marker from the road. And I'm sure as soon as it gets to that threshold, it's going to be like shut the lake down. But this is more of the lake hasn't crested yet. I know more is coming. As soon as the water hits there, it's more of I want to be more proactive than reactive. So for Little Muskego, it was knowing how much can come over that spillway and how fast I can get rid of it. There is a lot of people downstream along Pioneer Drive that are affected by this, so I can only release it so fast. So if I have the gates open as much as possible without flooding out people downstream, all the way to Landon Drive into Big Muskego, I know that if we're holding back water on Little Muskego, that 8 inches is right where we want to be. Like if we're right within that, we're good. And then I also have measures I can take downstream to let a little more go, but that's over time, that's what we've learned is 8 inches is about it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Again, need a motion in the form of a recommendation to Common Council.
Motion to recommend to Common Council.
Yes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
No new business, no communications here?
Can I give a quick communication?
Absolutely.
Send me an email. Not really, I still gotta send it out. Just a FYI, since this is an agendized, this is a one-way conversation. The library has, we're having some issues with the fire suppression system there. It's the original to the building. There's a dry system in there. So picture like a big pipe about that size that is essentially dry except for when it pressurizes, but water does run through it. Water is sits along the bottom of it. What's causing is the pipe to have a bunch of pinhole leaks all over. We've been catching them for the last 4 or 5 years. We're at a system failure point right now. So we're going to need to emergency replace the system. We are bid right now that we have for it is around 70,000 plus whatever the compressor is going to cost us. So we're waiting for 2 more bids to come in. We should have those in the next couple days. As soon as we get it, I'm authorizing it to do it, because if we don't, the system could do a catastrophic failure and ruin our whole collection. So just an update of what's going on. As far as funding it, we do have 2 sources that Brittany found, 2 endowment funds that are for the building. We researched those over the last week to make sure we can use it for this. We can, that'll cover a large portion of this. We will take the surplus out of the parking lot money we had budgeted for replacing the parking lot. So hopefully when bids come in, we'll still be able to do the parking lot. If not, we're going to bid the parking lot in thirds, and we'll do as much of it as our budget will allow, and then push the rest of it off till later. Parking lot's not an emergency. Fire suppression is, so we're just prioritizing. If you have any other specific questions, you can ask me either after the meeting or give me a call tomorrow.
Great, thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.